Welcome to chapter 14 of Intro to Psychology. In this video, we'll be talking about the pursuit of happiness, what psychology has to say about happiness. We previously mentioned in the previous video, Martin Seligman, a researcher who is the founder of positive psychology, or one of the earliest researchers to bring about this paradigm shift in psychology. Um, uh, Much of psychology, particularly clinical psychology that I'm in, has to do with mental illness, diagnosing mental illness, helping people cope with mental health problems. Not as much attention has been given to the positive aspects of our mental and psychological lives. So, positive psychology is a branch of psychology that's focused on promoting positive qualities of mental health to help people have greater fulfillment in their lives. So it's focused on things like love and creativity and perseverance and originality and spirituality and well-being and those kinds of things. So positive psychologists study the factors that help us be happy. They study things like how happiness changes with age. There's many research studies that have shown that life satisfaction increases with age, as well as rates of depression peak around adolescence and young adulthood, and then decline moving forward. Then also they study how family and social relationships influence our happiness. We often talk about how married people, in general, on average, are happier than those who are not. That's an average. Not everyone fits under that category, but overall, in terms of the population, that's the trend that we tend to see. We also, like we mentioned in the previous video, study people who have good social support, good social relationships, good networks of support, and compare them to people who don't have strong friendships or relationships, and show how that influences their mental health and their happiness. Uh, Positive psychologists also study money, how a nation's gross domestic product is associated with happiness in that country, and how we see that wealthy individuals still tend to be happier than poor individuals. Not that wealth causes happiness or is the only determinant of happiness, but it can provide a base level of happiness. Maybe not all fulfillment, but a base level of happiness that is different than individuals who have a low socioeconomic status. And Also showing that there's an upper limit, that happiness increases with income only up to about $75,000. That after that, if you make more money than that, the gains in happiness are not very significant. They also study things like religion and spirituality, how religiosity is associated with greater well-being and health outcomes in many clinical populations. Researchers here at Wayne State University in my lab have shown how religiosity and spirituality are associated with better health outcomes in people who have suffered brain injuries or people who have neurological conditions like multiple sclerosis. One important reason why people struggle to find happiness is that people are often poor at predicting the intensity and duration of their future emotions and their future experiences. So, events that might initially cause an intense surge of emotion are good and are okay, but eventually we adapt to changing emotional circumstances in our lives, and we become not quite as accurate in making predictions about how we will feel in the future. Dramatic life events tend to have much less long lasting impact on happiness than might be expected. So we often see that when people go through a serious life experience, like a divorce or a loss of a job or a loss of a parent, uh, in the moment, we tend to feel that that will that may pass, or that will just going through a phase, and we positive psychologists have shown how oftentimes when someone goes through a serious life experience, that their level of happiness is oftentimes permanently altered, that they don't often just rebound and go back. I can cite many examples of loved ones who've lost someone in their lives, and after a few years are struggling to get back to their original state of happiness, feeling that, oh, I should be out of it by now. I should have recovered by now. I should be out of this dump by now. Not realizing that certain life experiences can have a profound and permanent effect on our happiness. Um, so two more slides, two elements, two slides describing the elements of happiness, the a kind of a simplistic model of what elements are needed in order for someone to be happy. Some researchers have proposed that the three most important elements that lead to happiness are pleasant life experiences and daily pleasures that bring people joy and happiness, as well as having a meaningful life, being able to contribute to the greater good of other people in a significant way. And then having what's called a good life, or improving your life, improving your personal skills, enriching the things that you are able to do. That those three things together, having pleasure, having meaning, and having an improvement of skills, contribute most significantly to a state of well-being. If there's one prominent finding that can be shown across many different studies, is it's that I should say that is so important for people, particularly in Western cultures, in very individualistic cultures, is that a big part of happiness that is missing for many people is having a meaningful life in which we are contributing to not just our own gains or our own benefit, but contributing towards the happiness of other people. That helping others at its core is probably the big missing element for many people, particularly in Western cultures, for that's missing from experiencing happiness. Another more complex analysis of happiness comes from this 2007 research study on the definition of mental health. Once again, we tend to focus on mental illness and the different symptoms that people experience when they're going through a particular psychiatric disorder. But on the flip side, there are some basic elements of mental health that people should strive to have in order to live a fulfilling life. And those are things like being able to have talents or abilities that you enjoy doing and can use effectively and productively. Feeling like you are good at something is something that we should be emphasized in order for people to achieve happiness and mental health. Being able to find fulfillment in guiding and mentoring and nurturing other people, taking the focus off yourself and putting it on the needs of other people is an important aspect of mental health. Being able to appreciate and respond to humor is a big aspect of mental health that we see is affected in many mental disorders, that you're no longer able to find things funny. That is a really, really good sign and a really important sign of happiness. Although there's always the flip side, there's certain people who use humor to hide underlying distress. Being able to come to terms with painful experiences from the past and being able to find meaning and growth in them is another important expression of happiness and mental health. So take a look through this little checklist here and see how many of these things are present in your life and which things might need some improvement in order for you to achieve well-rounded mental health.